Hello everyone, I am Dark Warrior, and today, this is my first video. So, I just wanted to give a heads up that I am not the greatest at recording things, and also not the greatest at, well, really even talking. So, I think what we'll be talking about in this video is games. Games are basically derived from not the active games that you know, like hide and go seek and tag. These games are basically like a virtual reality. Virtual reality is, well, not the real world in a case. It's basically like, well, it's quite hard to explain. It's basically like a 3D world, but with not realistic things, I guess we can call it. And what games basically derive of is shooting and adventure or well, roleplay. There's a bunch of other ones as well that we could be talking about too, but we'll be just talking about the main common ones that people play. The most biggest one so far right now in 2016 is probably simulations, and simulations pretty much just are simulation games. Let's talk about them. Simulation games are the first games we want to be talking about because they're the most easiest, and they're basically talking about, well, I don't know, simulations are basically like real things, like you're making your own real place or something, like Sim, for example. You're basically having a bunch of people, like your own family, or your own couple, or your own person. Couple. I can't talk today. There's also the X-Plane, which is basically, I guess, a plane simulator. Microsoft Flight Simulation X, which, again, another plane/helicopter simulation. And there's The Sims. Truck simulation, which quite obvious. Roller Coaster Tycoon. There's like a whole bunch that we could be talking about. There's also simulations that reenact things, like a war game, like Arma 3. Silent Hunter, I think, does the same. There's also a bunch of other simulations. OpenTTD, I think that's like a money game. I don't really know that too well. And yeah, we can go on forever about these simulation games. Like, forever. Now let's get into the action games. Action games are really more violent and not very peaceful for a younger audience, I guess. So, most biggest game right now is Grand Theft Auto 5, and of course other Grand Theft Autos, and also Call of Duty. Tom Clancy's The Division is a game that just came out. That's full of action. Came out a couple weeks ago. There's also other games that don't derive of being a bad person. Well, of course, Call of Duty's not really bad. There's also other games that you're the good guy in. Tomb Raider, Super Smash Bros., I think Rampage, and Minecraft, which isn't that action-like, I guess. And Battlefield, and, of course, Call of Duty, and Mass Effect, and, Injustice, and Garden Warfare. Mirror's Edge. These games basically derive of shooting and a lot of fighting, including fighting, we'll get to that later, and other violent things that go on in the world. Well, not really in the world, but just violent things. That's what an action game really carries. So, if you do not want to find a violent thing, then, like a game, then this isn't really the thing for you. Fighting games, well, it's quite obvious. It's basically like an action game. I really don't know why that's a thing, because, you know, fighting games are basically just about fighting and whatnot. It's not like a, yeah, you know, it's an action game. So, I guess these are not really part, but there's a ton more than what we're just seeing as an example. There's also the, role-playing games. There's, not only are these games on PC, but they're also on these consoles called the Xbox. Well, we'll just get into those later. So here are some role-playing games. Dark Souls 3 is one of my favorites, including Bravely Second and Lair. Fallout 4, which I've been playing quite commonly. The Witcher, and yeah, these are basically just role-playing games. Especially World of Warcraft. You can basically role-play days on end in that game. Yeah, pretty much. This is what this is. These games are not only role-playing, by the way, they're also derived of action and basically just exploring the world. That's what some of these games are around. There's also the open world games. There's a whole bunch of them. Far Cry is a pretty big one too. Memex just came out a few months ago. A lot of the open world games nowadays, unfortunately, are quite violent. There's been a few open world games that are not that violent, like The Amazing Spider-Man or something like that. Yeah, most of them have been pretty much not really appropriate for younger audiences, unfortunately. But if you really enjoy exploration, I guess these are the games for you. But if you don't like action, there's also Minecraft, which isn't that bad. Now let's get into the consoles that you can use to run these games. Let's get out first off with the gaming stuff, like the gaming consoles. Yeah, I can't even talk today. So we have the PCs, and we're just going to call them gaming PCs. Because there's actually gaming laptops. First off, the gaming laptops we'll get started with. Really doesn't matter what kind of gaming laptop you get, because they're gonna run a game you probably want, because they're that well. So, the most biggest one around is probably the Alienware, the Asus, and the Razer. There's also other ones like CyberPower and a few custom-made ones, like you can actually build a gaming laptop. Now it's time for the PCs. Now, what's better is probably a PC, because you're going to have a lot more room. You're going to have not much to worry about, like heating problems, like what most laptops have to worry about. And plus, laptops don't have a lot of space. While computers, on the other hand, like PCs, really have a lot of space to play a big game. And there's examples on the monitors that, well, basically show games we can play on it. Now, most of these PCs, as you can tell, are, well, mostly just custom-made ones, from the looks of it, because you can actually buy things, and again, make your own PC or laptop. So, and again, Razer and Alienware and Asus have made some very well done PCs, including CyberPower. CyberPower, in my opinion, is pretty well done. The next one we're going to get up to is the consoles, which are not close to PCs and laptops, but again, you can't make them transparent, so they're just like PCs. But with a little more, I guess you can play other games, because as for other PCs, don't really play those games. I don't know. Gaming consoles. Now, just saying, there are a lot of gaming consoles. Not only the PS4 and the Xbox 360, there's also a bunch more. And there's also the PSP. But anyways, let's get into the common ones. So, these are the main gaming consoles that we've known. Some of these nowadays are very old. The Xbox 360 is not too bad, same with the DS, but a lot of these are getting old, so we'll get into the newest ones. Newest first. Newest ones, the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U. This isn't really even I don't even know, anyways. There's also a load of other ones, like the Atari. Atari was kind of one of the first gaming consoles to come out ever. So if you want to play like one of the newest games, you have these very games right here for the Atari, which are not the most best, but they're somewhat okay. They used to be good at the time, though. There's also the Sega. They're mostly just called Sega Genesis. That's mostly popular. Sega Genesis were they almost are very similar with the